and welcome to Modern Mentoring. I am your host, Lani Phillips. I am so excited to be back with you all. We're going to give it a few minutes and allow everyone time to join. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. So let's give everyone time to join us and we will get started here soon. I know we have people out there that will be joining us, of course, on LinkedIn Live. We have those of you that are watching us out on YouTube as well as Twitter. I'm so excited for you to join the conversation tonight. We have one of my special friends in the house, Dr. Angela. I cannot wait to introduce you to her. So come on in. I'm going to give it a few minutes and allow all of you to join, and then we're going to get started because it's an important conversation we're having today. For those of you that are out there that are joining us, I would love for you to type in chat, how is your day going? Find two words that describe how your day is going. Today is Tuesday for us, and if I had to choose a word, I would say I'm focused, absolutely focused. I had a crazy day, and I'm also excited. I feel like I've been away a few months. I had to go prioritize other things at work, but I'm back today. And I was so excited and looking forward to spending tonight with all of you. So come on in. Let's give it a few more minutes. Hi, Pooja. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Hi, William. Hi, Rob. So glad that you could join us. Come on in. All right, positive vibes, continually learning, intense and excited. Hello, all. Hello, Nakia. Sherelle, how are you? Love that. Intense and excited. Ooh, intense. Yes, I would love to hear more about that. Feeling energized, continuously working, Avi. I totally understand that. I am so glad you all could join us tonight. I really want to give it just a couple of more minutes and then we'll get started here. I know people are transitioning. Hello, Kevin, blessed and highly favored. I know that's right. Yes, Jason, I am back. Modern mentoring is back. I have to tell you, I cannot tell you all how much I appreciate the love, how many emails I got, how many posts I got around when are you bringing modern mentoring back? So we are back tonight. I cannot tell you, I'm excited to talk to you all about conquering quiet quitting. A lot of people have a lot to say about that. Sherelle says, yes, so glad you're back. This show led me to Women in Cloud. That is awesome to hear. I'm really glad to hear that. It means a lot that we're able to help connect you to various communities and connect you to people that really can help you on your growth journey. Hello, Janine. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you. Don, hello, hello. Yes, I'm back. It's good to have you out there. I'm going to give it one more minute and then we're going to jump right in. I asked everyone type in two words that describe how your day has gone. Hello, Candace. Welcome. You ready for this conversation? I bet you are. Hi, Nadia. You're motivated. I'm glad you could join us. So glad to see so many people out there. Let me go ahead and get started because I want to maximize every minute that we have. I know there will be a number of people joining throughout our conversation, but I really want to just say welcome. This is my actual third season on Modern Mentoring. I've kind of broken them down into seasons now. It's really important to me with modern mentoring that we're really focused on really helping people to thrive in corporate spaces. That's really what it's all about. It started out as my way of really scaling my mentoring efforts, and now it really is about making sure that we bring together a community of people to really talk about the conversations that we need to have around helping you thrive. Be willing to admit when we get it wrong, but also share with you some of the things we've done where we got it right and we feel like it was a winning formula that could be replicated by others. But today, we want to talk about conquering quiet quitting. And really, my intention for today's conversation is really to help us all find a way to really start to address the issue of conquering, I should say, quiet quitting. I think a lot of people have written on this topic. I think on a lot of social platforms, a lot of people have addressed it. I've heard a lot of people address it from a corporate space, but not a lot of people have spoken about it from what is it like to be going through it. So I cannot think of a better person to have this conversation with when you think about actually trying to speak to what it's like to go through it and what are some of those things you can do to help pull you through the difficulty. We will also address it from a leadership perspective and from a company perspective, what you can do. But our intention for today's conversation is to make sure that when you walk away, you have some practical things you can put into practice to either help you get through it or for you to be able to support your organization so you can kind of minimize some of the disengagement and how it might look. And hopefully, it can stimulate the right conversations. But before we get into any more detail on conquering quiet quitting, let me introduce today's guest. I have her bio here, so bear with me as I read it and make sure that I do her due diligence. Doreen, I see you out there. Thank you for joining. Dr. Angela Anderson, in her current role, serves as the U.S. Head of Diversity and Inclusion Strategy and Operations for Novartis Pharmaceuticals Corporation. She is also a #1 Amazon International best-selling author of Now What? Get Over Yourself and Move. Great book. Encourage all of you to go get it. Dr. Anderson is a leadership and organizational expert who specializes in providing training around the world on topics such as leadership, diversity, influence, motivation, team dynamics, and much, much more. Additionally, Dr. Anderson is internationally certified as an executive advisor, global speaker, and trainer. Dr. Anderson's mission is to guide individuals and organizations on the journey to maximizing their full potential through solutions focused actions and a positive mindset. Dr. Anderson trains groups within the business, educational, nonprofit, and healthcare fields. The goal is to empower others to improve, increase productivity, and operate at your maximum potential. Dr. Anderson has also been called on multiple times from companies where she gets to share her expertise in diversity and inclusion, also around critical communication, motivation, stress management, and mental wealth, including some of the companies Verizon, Data, FedEx, United Way, Ericsson, and the United States Department of Defense. I personally have an opportunity to spend time with Dr. Angela because I call her my friend. And one of the things that I appreciate about my friend, Dr. Angela, is the fact that no matter what you're going through, she's always one of those friends that you know she's going to meet you where you're at. She's always going to support you when you're going through difficulty, but she'll also challenge you to always bring your best and not settle for anything less. And you know what? She can give it. I can also give it. We support each other because iron sharpens iron. And I am so pleased to introduce you all to my friend, Dr. Angela. Welcome, Dr. Angela.
Hi, Lani. I was sitting here and I was thinking, I said, we can't start the conversation in tears, Lani.
You know what? Today, tears are allowed because we are going to have a real conversation about it.
Yes,
Okay, we're gonna have a
I
real
agree.
conversation today. Yeah, but before we jump into quiet quitting, what that means, all that good stuff, that's an incredible bio. A lot of people see that, they might be a little intimidated. So help them get to know the woman behind all of those accolades. So, do you mind sharing with everyone a little bit about who you are, Angela, the woman?
Absolutely. So when you were reading everything, I found myself saying, "You don't have to read all that. You don't have to read all of that." Really, I conquer one thing at a time, and my goal in life and the thing I'm most proud of is being a mom and a wife, and so I try to balance all of the things you were discussing around that part of my life. And so, yeah, I think it's evidence that I love a process, I guess, because I continue to do things. But yeah, I'm really just your everyday person. I'm your friend, so you know me well. I care about people. That's really what I subscribe to in life more than if that is what you subscribe to, we are kindred spirits. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe that you're in season 3. So I want to say congratulations to you. I've seen this entire journey and I'm so proud of you for this. This is so necessary. So I'm proud
Oh,
to be here with you.
thank you. Thank you so much. And it's true, you all. She has been on the whole journey with me when I was like, nope, not doing it. It just didn't come comfortable. I was not comfortable at all. And I need everyone to understand that you too can get over your fears. If I can, I know you can too. So let's jump into the conversation. Okay. So why don't you start by defining quiet quitting?
So I think we have to give context first before we even
Mhm.
go into the definition, because I think we have to understand some of the root causes of this phenomenon, right? So when
Okay.
I was thinking about this conversation, I said, okay, let's review what we've all experienced over the past couple of years. We've had a pandemic. We've had social unrest and injustice. We've had virtual school. If you're a parent, you've had to shift to virtual work. Maybe it's something you haven't traditionally done. You may have experienced personal loss. You may have experienced some health scares. You may have experienced financial loss. There's so many things that we've all experienced in such a short period of time. I think that's a major contributor to what we're seeing around this trend, quiet quitting. But by definition, what it says is when people become disengaged at work, where they are no longer willing or have the desire to go above and beyond in their roles, they really want to have that 9 to 5 structure. They want to do just what they're, but I think a lot of that is fueled by the fact that we're exhausted. Most people are just exhausted, right? We've been through so much, and people don't have the same capacity, I think, that they once did. But I'm glad we're having this conversation because we're going to talk about how to conquer it.
Absolutely. So let's have real talk. Have you ever experienced it? And do you mind sharing a story?
So, absolutely. So, you and I, we're drivers. I was a person who it didn't, I was the queen of the all nighter. College, there was not, it's not uncommon for me to be up all night studying, go to class, and just do this on a regular basis. And that's really the way I approached work and anything that I dedicated myself to. It had to be perfect or it just wasn't right. And I found myself making that my norm and not realizing how much I was really pushing myself, but also it was unrealistic. It wasn't sustainable. So I'll tell you what my moment was where it all shifted for me. I was preparing for work as I usually would. It was late. I had done a live conversation like this one online, prepare for bed, and I noticed I was experiencing pain that I really hadn't experienced before. And I was uncomfortable. I couldn't shift or move my body to get comfortable. I didn't know what that was. So I just pushed it to the side. I got up the next morning, I took an early morning meeting, even with the pain. So I called and I said, I can't take the rest of my calls. I have to go see what this is. So over the series of the next few days, I saw several physicians and healthcare professionals, went through a series of experiences. But ultimately, what I discovered was that I had had a pulmonary embolism out of the blue, and no previous health conditions, no indication, no illness, nothing. I had survived COVID, and I do say survived because it's something else. And they think that it was a complication from that. And so I had to really reflect, because when I had COVID, I was quarantined for 40 days, which left a lot of time for thinking. And then the PE and that recovery period, it taught me a lot of things, Lani. It helped me really prioritize what was important. It really helped me learn the value of time, and what I was dedicating my time to, and if it made sense as it pertains to my purpose and to the purpose of the people around me. And so I arrived at this place where I said, no longer will I sacrifice myself for people to whom I'm replaceable at the expense of those to whom I'm not.
Mm. Let's sit in that for a moment, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening in right now saying, wow, what a wake up call. I remember when it happened, and I remember how scared we all were and worried. And so, first and foremost, I'm just so grateful you got through that. But I also remember you discussing with me some of the key learnings when you were going through this with the COVID, extended COVID, and having to deal with the aftermath with this PE event in your life. So I'd like to hear from you. You know, when I think about these key lessons that you've learned, you know, what was that thing that you went to help pull you through this difficulty? Because I know there's a lot of things you've learned, but some people are really stuck and they don't know how to pull themselves through the difficulty. So, what are some of your ideas around how someone might do that?
So I try to ground myself in simple principles, right? So the first thing I tell myself is that no matter how difficult it looks right now, you have a 100% track record of overcoming by nature of the fact that you're still here.
That's
And
right.
so this will soon become one of those things that you add to the list. So that's the first thing that I say. I have that on a note on my desk, actually. And then I really try to, like I said, ground myself in simple principles. So the one that I thought about for quiet quitting, I said, when you find yourself in this space where it may be difficult, you may find yourself pulling back or not having that same excitement about your work that you once did, remember what you know. So, Lani, you know I love a great acronym.
Yes, you do.
I have one for this. Yes. So remember what you know. KNOW. And so the K in what you know is keep your tank full. And I'll tell you a story about that.
Okay.
So I was in a rush, as we often are, and going from one thing to the next and not really, prioritizing the things that we need to because we're just trying to get tasks completed. And I looked down at my gas tank one day and I was about half full. And I said, oh, I'm good. I can run a few more errands. I'll do it later. So I kept going, kept going, kept going. I got to now I can't push it anymore. And I found myself in an area where I wouldn't typically stop to refuel my tank, but I didn't have a choice. So I stopped. And when I got there, I would normally put a certain grade of gas in my car. They didn't have it. So I had to put what they had, right? Which was not what I would typically use. And so that experience taught me a few lessons, but one of them was one, keep your tank full, which is the K. And what I mean by that is that we have to make sure we prioritize what our needs are first so we don't run ourselves to empty and then we have to only accept what people are willing to give us.
So, what is that process like, or one of the steps that you use daily to make sure you're clear on what those priorities are? Because I don't know how many people actually do that on a regular to really get clarity around those priorities. What are some of those practices?
So I'm really intentional. I prioritize the things that need attention the most first. And then I give myself grace. I
Yeah.
can't do everything. I can't do
Mm,
everything at once. And I'm one person. And when you're efficient or when you try to deliver things in excellence, there's a lot of tendencies for people to pull and tug and ask and inquire. And so you have to what good looks like. So I have post-it notes. That's my best friend. I create my to-do list for the day, and I get this sense of accomplishment when I'm able to just check those things off the list one at a time. And it helps me avoid that feeling at the end of the day of being busy, but still feeling like I didn't accomplish anything.
I can
Right?
relate. I can relate to that. And I'll add to that. So I do just like you. I start my day off with my to-do list. And yes, I still get gratification from writing it down, although you can also use your computer. There are many different applications out there to do the same thing. But here's the difference for me now is because my to-do list can be 2 pages long. But I do have to ask the question before this day ends, what are the 3 to 5 things I must complete? And if nothing else gets done, these 3 to 5 things get done so that I can use it as a barometer to say, if I have to stop now, I can stop because I got the most important things done.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So, why don't you share another tip that you could use
Sure.
to get through this time?
So let's go through the N and remember what you know. And this is for needs assessment. And essentially, what this is making sure that you prioritize, which is what you were just describing. We really take a look at what our obligations are and we figure out what needs to happen first. Everything is not an emergency because if everything is important, nothing is important. You can't
Correct.
physically do it. You can't mentally do it. You can't spiritually do it. You have to prioritize. And so, really take inventory of what is required of you and then what you have capacity to deliver with excellence. And so, in that space, also look at what you need to it. Here's the thing, we make a lot of to do lists and then we push that to do list to the side because somebody requested a last minute deliverable. And so we get off course, right? And of course, we're not saying be inflexible, but try to bring yourself back to your plan as quickly as you can. So take an assessment, do an inventory of your capacity and then what you need to deliver.
Oh, I love that one. Let me also tell our audience if you have questions for Dr. Angela, feel free to type them into the chat and we'll make sure that we incorporate them into our conversation. So, all right, I'm ready for the third one.
And this is one that I have really practiced, Lonnie, and I'm a work in progress
Okay.
on this. But the O stands for own your no. Own your no. And use it and mean it and stick to it and respect it, right? Because if you come from a place of giving, if you come from a servant's heart and it doesn't feel like work, it feels like purpose. A lot of times you don't even realize that you've stretched yourself so thin, described. And so set healthy but strategic boundaries when it comes to what you have to deliver, not only professionally, but also personally. So own your no. It is a complete
Okay.
sentence and it's a gift.
It is a complete sentence. Let me repeat that again. It's a complete sentence and it's a gift. So let's sit in that for a moment because I'm sure we've got people at all stages in their career that are going to be listening to our conversation. And I have some people pleasers out there too. And they are very
Mm.
worried about their perception, the perception of them with others. And they probably overcommit and do not like to use that word now. And I would love for you to share your perspective on those people pleasers out there that struggle to say no.
So I think there are people who worry about how people will perceive them if they say no. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I can think of several ways to tell people no. I'll share one of them with you. I am
Okay.
so honored that you thought of including me in this particular initiative. And if I had capacity, I would be more than happy to participate. But at this time, for us to connect at a later time, I still said no. I just said it
You
in a
said I
way.
still said no.
I
I
just
love it.
said it in
I
a
love
way.
it.
Yeah, I just said it in a way where I honored your request. I showed appreciation for the fact that you thought enough to include me in what you were doing. I told you that I didn't have capacity, and then I left the door open for future opportunities. But at the end of that sentence, it's still no.
It's still no. And I think it's a gift for sure to be able to say no to people so that you don't stretch yourself too thin and you can begin to prioritize the things that are most important to you. Yes, I think you said it well. It's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you say it. And demonstrating that gratitude along with how you respond always goes a long, long way. So, for all my people pleasers out there who struggle to say no, remember there is a way to do it. And you could still manage your brand positively for those of you that are overly concerned about that. But just remember, as you continue to grow in your career, continue to grow in your responsibility, take on more. Like she said, those of you who have a servant's heart and always want to give to others, people can begin to take advantage of that. So you have to understand what's important, the needs assessment, determining priority, be willing to say no and say it in a very thoughtful way. All right, so let's move to the last one.
So before we do, I want to just illustrate something really quickly that comes to
Sure.
mind. So you know things will come to me. And this will make it really succinct for those that are people pleasers, right? If we were at dinner and we were sitting at a table and there was this amazing meal in front of me and I started nothing and I ate a percentage of it and then I said, here's the rest for you. You can have what I've left over. Would you take it? Probably not. But that's how we do ourselves in life. We give everything to everybody else around us, and whatever's left, that's what we give ourselves. And so I want you to think of it with that example that I just illustrated. You don't have to put yourself in a position where you only take what's left. You can take what's first, and everybody can get a little bit of what's first instead of what is left over.
Oh, I love that. And can we add to what you just shared? It's also what you give to yourself, but also for those of us that have busy lives like yourself and me, you also need to prioritize the family around you and the people in your life that are important because they really feel like that they're always last on the list or they get the leftovers
Leftovers.
if they get the leftovers, right?
Right.
So it's
That's true.
important to remember, yes, prioritize yourself, absolutely right. But also prioritize those people in your life that are so important to you as well. Because I know sometimes I'm always trying to be more and more conscious of not making my family feel like they're getting the leftovers as well.
Yeah. And when it
Yeah,
really comes down, when it really boils down to what's important, Lonnie, that's it.
yeah,
That's why we
yeah,
do everything. And
it
so
is.
you can't keep putting the people that are important to us in the background and just expecting them to show up when it's convenient.
Yeah, that's such a great point. All right, I got to hear this last one.
You and know is work to win. And we've touched on it a little bit in what we were saying, but you want to make sure that you are making choices that are mutually beneficial. Sometimes we make choices that are beneficial only to where we have our roles. Sometimes we are imbalanced the other way, where we're too leisurely and we don't take care of what we need to do for our roles. We want to find that place as much in the middle as we can. Make decisions that are mutually beneficial. Work to win. So that means be more efficient, manage your time, have open communication with your leaders and with your team. Figure out those points of alignment where the goal is mutual win for you and for the people that you work with.
I love that. So I think we need to unpack that one because there's someone out there that's saying, all right, I'm going to do all these things, but at work, my boss tends to have a lot of demands on me or have expectations of me. How do I begin to start negotiating what my needs are after I've done all this work? What advice would you have for them in regards to how to have that conversation without being perceived as though they don't value still being able to deliver at
Mm-hmm.
above average in terms of what's expected of them, that they are any less committed to career growth and career acceleration, and they don't want to make it seem like they're not committed to the company. So, how do you advise people in navigating that conversation with their boss?
So it comes up a lot. I can tell you that. And so I often tell people approach the conversation as a whole person
Mm.
and really try to have a conversation with your leader where you're able to say that you're multidimensional and you have multiple responsibilities. Top priority is to make sure excellence, but I would love to have a conversation with you around efficiency and how I can help you and the team discover ways that we can work more efficiently together so we can also make sure that we are happy and whole employees. That gives us longevity. It's not just about the short-term wins. We want to have sustainable growth. We want to have sustainable excellence, and I would love to brainstorm on how you think we might be able to do that.
I don't know if I told y'all she's an excellent communicator. This is also in writing, by the way, but she just has a way of putting things that just kind of puts everybody back, puts them at ease a little bit. So I have to say, I love that approach because you're not coming at it so aggressive to where you want the, I think based on how you frame that, you put them in a state of mind of wanting to partner with you on trying to
Yes.
figure out what does that efficiency look like for you, right? And
Yes.
then I think you've already told them through the process of no to make sure you're clear on your priorities and the things that you need. So when they ask you, what does support look like for you? You'll be able to articulate that as well. So I think
Absolutely.
that's good. All right. So do we have any questions out there as I transition the conversation a little bit? Okay, I'm trying to give everyone time to ask questions. So we know there's a lot being said about this from what can companies do. And there was I just want to name her name. Those of you who follow me probably saw her. There was a question that came out when we announced we were going to have this conversation. It talked about the responsibility. Do we feel like the leader is responsible for this conversation? And so I'd love to pivot a little bit in terms of what can companies do and what can leaders do when they have encountered someone on their team that they perceive is quiet quitting, right? Or they're seeing the disengagement. What do you recommend? And I know you've got a few ideas there. I would love to hear them around what companies and leaders could do.
And it's not as complex as you think, particularly if you're leading a team. I think the best leaders around us are those that are intuitive, those that listen, those that pay attention, and those that know their team. enough to know when you see that there's a fluctuation or there's some sort of change in delivery of one of your team members, right? And so culture is critically important. You want to make sure that your team is seen, that you are listening to them, that they feel valued. If you're creating that as a foundation of your team, comfortable enough to have a conversation with you where they can give you that feedback that you need as a leader, where maybe the balance isn't necessarily ideal, and that you're receptive enough to hear it and then collectively problem solve on how to get things back to where you would like for them to be. So I think for leaders, it's listening. It is appreciating your teams as whole people and not just the roles they sit in. As I mentioned, I gave you a laundry list of things that people are contending with or have had to. And so I think if we can have empathy as leaders while still delivering excellence, we don't compromise with that. But I think people, and when they know that you'll take that pause to just check in and see how they are, or ask for the feedback, the clearest way to find out what people need is to ask them. And then make sure you listen when they answer.
You know, it seems so simple, but I think what's happened during everything that you did mention at the beginning, everyone now is kind of working from home or various locations. Let's just call it the hybrid workplace. And not necessarily are the manager and the employees getting face to face much anymore. So they're being relegated to these,
Mhm.
video conversations. And have you found that a lot of leaders, I think some are better at it than others, but do you hear feedback that employees are feeling like they engage with their manager less just to connect? And it's always tied specifically to a task or a project that they're held accountable for?
I think it can become that
Yeah.
unless the leader is intentional about making sure that it isn't. With my team, we have our regular meetings around our deliverables and initiatives and things that we're working on. But I also schedule periodic one on one meetings that have nothing to do with work. It is
Yeah.
simply, how are you? So, what are you working on? What is something that you need to prioritize your development, be it personal or professional? And so they know that there's going to be that touch point where we can have those kinds of conversations. And so I think it helps people push through those times where maybe we don't necessarily have that amount of time. They know it's going to be prioritized in that month. So they're like, okay, we'll work a little bit harder right now. We'll talk about this when we get to my one. We just have to remember that leadership is a little bit different now. It isn't this space where you just dictate, right, what needs to be done, and there's no
Mhm.
emotional intelligence and there's no empathy. We have to have a hybrid approach. And when people know that you will approach them in that way, at least my experience is that they tend to be more willing to do that extra mile for you. So no, I think it's the intention.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And there's some great leaders out there that are doing this every day. But I think there are leaders out there that are even struggling to manage all the demands on their time. And one of the areas that has been compromised is the connection with their people. So I want to share there's someone on this bridge that, and I won't call them out because I don't want to embarrass them, but I have always appreciated since the moment this person has joined my organization. They've always set a one-on-one on my calendar. And I remember the first time I went in, I expected us to go right into business conversations. And what I appreciated more than anything is this person actually said, I don't want to talk about business. I
Mhm.
just want to connect and get to know you at a deeper level and let you get to know me. And let's just talk about other things. And they always bring such insightful topics for us to dialogue. And that's always some of the best time that I have through. I always look forward to those one on ones because I know we're going to have a great conversation. And I feel like this person walks away with something from it. And I always walk
Mhm.
away with something from it. But I think what's in it for the audience is if you happen to have a leader that you may not be spending as much time with, I want to encourage you to proactively set up some time and try the strategy. If you need to talk business, but to try and have one where it's more focused on the personal connection and see if you can create an experience with your manager where it's something that they look forward to. So I hope that that might be one strategy that you can try that could be new. But you're right, there are leaders who need to understand that just spending that time with the team, asking them what do they need, and paying attention and being intentional is really important right now more than ever, especially during this critical time. So give me another tip that you want the team to be mindful of.
So, from an organizational standpoint, I think it's critically important that organizations supply their teams with the necessary tools, right? When people don't feel like they have what they need to show up in the way that they want to at work, it's very difficult and people aren't engaged. And so, you want relative to performing their job. That's first. Lani, I know I want to make sure we get these in, so I'm going to roll through these pretty quickly if it's okay with you. And then we'll
Yeah, but I got a question. A
okay,
question came.
let's
So
see.
let's take your question and then I want you to roll through it. So,
Okay.
Dr. Anderson, are there any early signs from Jason Roper? Are there any early signs to quiet quitting you can talk about? Any things we can look out for before we get to a stage where someone disconnects from the work?
From the perspective of the leader watching someone on their team, or is this from the perspective of a person who is experiencing quiet quitting?
Why don't we address both?
Okay, so if you're the leader and you're monitoring for these symptoms of quiet quitting with your team, after a while, you come to know how your team shows up. But if you notice there's significant behavioral changes in some of the people that you work with, maybe they're not volunteering for things like they once did. Maybe they're not as fast to engage or respond to things as they once were. Maybe when you ask them about those stretch special projects and they're not as enthusiastic as they once were, that could be a sign that they are leaning. How are you balancing things? I know I've been asking a lot of you lately, and you've been delivering, and I appreciate that. But I also want to hold space for the fact that I recognize that you also need balance. How can I support you?
Powerful question. Powerful
So
question.
that's from the leader. If you're the person that feels like you may be experiencing quiet quitting, the same is true. Do you find that you don't have the same level of enthusiasm for your work? Is it more difficult when you start your day? Do you wake up and say, "Oh, I can't wait to be over"? Are you looking for those moments where you say, "I'm only going to give what I can give, and I'm not going to do any more, and I'm not going to do any less"? Those are signs that you may be approaching quiet quitting. If you know
Mm,
that's not typical behavior for you, it's something to pay attention to.
I love that. And I've also noticed that when I have a string of nights where I haven't slept well or I've worked some extremely long hours, my fuel tank is on empty. And that you kind of have to say, you know what? I'm not excited. I need a few days off. I always try to tell myself it's probably time to take a few days off, or even look at planning a long weekend so that
Mhm.
I can actually have that extra day to really just kind of invest in myself or the things that fill my pot up. But I do think that you're right. You've got to pay attention to the signs. And if you don't have the same amount of energy, it's that early signal for sure that you may be approaching quiet quitting.
Yeah.
So I love that. All right,
Here's a
go
strategy,
ahead and let's
Lani.
hope. Yes.
So here's another strategy for that. One thing that I did this year, which has really been helpful, is I looked at my calendar of events and deliverables for the year. And
Okay.
I know I can look at my calendar and I can tell what projects are going to take higher levels of dedication and time and energy versus others. And so what I've done is I have scheduled time off shortly after those deliverables are complete to recharge. So even going into the project, I can be motivated by the fact that I'm going to push really hard right now. I'm going to get this done at the level that I expect for myself. And then I'm going to reward myself with time off when I'm done. So put a plan in place to balance those moments where you feel like,
Ooh, I'm gonna borrow that one myself. It also gives you something to look forward to.
exactly.
Oh, I love that one. That's a really good one. And a sidebar for those who want to know is someone shared this with me. Plan your vacation out for a year. Go
You told
ahead
me
and
that.
plan. I did. Someone told me that. Take the days and weeks, plan it out for the year, and you'll always have that to look forward to. And everything that you commit to has to work around it. Not that the vacation has to work around the commitments. All commitments have to work around your vacation schedule. So I know that's also one that I have tried and it does work and it does allow you to create that space. But the one you just talked about, doing it around the busy season and the things in your life, like right now is a crazy time for me. Do something that you have just to
Mhm.
recharge. It'll be something to look forward to. I love that. All right, so you go ahead and finish your suggestions for leaders and companies.
Sure. So we've talked a little bit about this already, but when possible, give individual attention, right? So we talked about it with the one-on-ones. We talked about it with those touch points, right? And so again, it's a great strategy. Number three, coaching for your team. Oftentimes as leaders, we are really focused on just making sure that we deliver, but we don't focus on developing. And it's a disservice. There's another D for you. There's a disservice if we don't, right?
Oh, yes. Let's sit in that for a moment.
Yeah.
We have got to do a better job of developing talent. I mean, we all get busy. We all get busy. I'm not perfect at it. I don't think there's anyone out there perfect at it, but we have got to get back to prioritizing that because it really does make a difference. And I think it helps employees really feel like they're thriving and keeps them from disengaging because it creates a level of enthusiasm and excitement for them, right? It's a good
So can I tell you this? I think some people disengage because it's easy to, because nobody's
one.
watching.
Ooh, now you telling somebody's truth
But
right
if
now.
I have a leader that well, that's what we do. That's what we do. People feel like the leader may not notice anyway. So I can disengage, it's easy. But if you have a leader that has regular touch points, that comes to you and says, hey, I really noticed that you are great with these skills, but I have something that you may want to pursue that will help you develop in this area. Constantly speaking into their ability to move forward and to the next level is more difficult to disappear when your leaders are paying attention.
So true. So true. And even in this virtual world, I've actually had my boss actually will do this. So may not have touched base with him because he's busy, I'm busy. Might be a few weeks, but I'll get a chat from him in Teams, checking in, asking a question just to stay plugged in. Little subtleties like that even help, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To know that they're paying attention. They still know, they still value you. You're still there. I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a really good one. So let's keep going.
All right. So speaking of teams, it's also really easy if you're on a call with someone and you notice maybe their energy is off. I will send instant messages privately on Teams to say, I noticed there may be some things going on. I just want to send you the energy your way and encourage you to keep going. If you need to chat, let me know. It works.
Mm, do they always call you back?
It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah. But do they call you?
Absolutely. Well,
She
sometimes,
said, oh, yes.
yeah. Oh yeah. We don't do not call them back. They call back. They call back. And they're often quite grateful, quite honestly. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for not just allowing me to sit in that space and not show up as my best, but also serving as a support in that space to help bring me back. Right. So it's critically
Yeah,
important.
because you see them. We talk about around diversity, equity, and inclusion. That inclusion piece we all know is critical. And people want to know that you see them and that you hear them and that you value them. And just that little subtlety
Mhm.
does demonstrate that I see you. I'm paying attention and I can see that you're not at your best today. And I just want you to know I'm here to support you in any way. I think that's wonderful. That's a wonderful suggestion that all of my leaders out there, I hope you are taking note because even I'm sitting here thinking I'm going to be more intentional about this going forward as well. So, all right, what are some of the others you have for us?
Okay, so listen to your employees. It's a simple one. We've talked a lot about that. Pay attention, ask questions, but here's the key: be prepared to act on what you hear. Employees do not want to hear a lot of questions and give you all of this feedback for you to say, that was great. I really enjoyed it. And then you do nothing.
I know. And people will say you're disingenuous. Like you'll get on email or you'll get up in front of everybody and profess all this stuff. And then when you get the feedback, you go, "Oh, well, thanks for sharing."
That was wonderful. That was so eloquent. You did amazing. That was so insightful.
And they're
What
like,
the
like, where's the compassion right now? Can you like take this feedback and do something with it, please?
solution? Exactly.
Totally get that. That is
Yeah.
like spot on. Okay. We can all do that much better. All right.
Because if you don't, the next time you go with a round of questions, guess what the response will be?
Nothing.
Minimal. Number five. Here's number five. Get social. And this is what I mean by this: create opportunities for team building, for individual connection, which we've already talked about, and then really appreciate your team as whole people. I've said that a few times during our conversation. Really be intentional about seeing people beyond the seat they're sitting in relative to their role and appreciating who they are as a person in totality. So, my next one, this is my favorite: serve
Okay.
others.
Oh,
Serve others. And so I'll make this one my last one because it's my
okay.
favorite. When you find yourself in a space where your energy I like to channel that energy into something that relates to purpose. So if I'm not feeling my best, I take the opportunity to reach out to other people and encourage them in those moments.
Mm,
Usually, the byproduct of encouraging someone else is that I feel better.
it's really true. When you serve
Really
others,
true.
it does come back to you. It really
It's true.
does. And I think as leaders, we just have to continue to remember that no matter how busy we are, how crazy it gets, if we put forth that energy, I guarantee you it will come back to us. That is so awesome. Oh, you've given us some great tips. I mean, I'm still processing all of them. I hope our guests today have got some amazing tips. I want to go back and let's revisit the no, and then let's review the six that you went over. So, walk everyone through no again. What does
All
it
right.
stand for?
So it's KNOW, acronyms, my favorite. So it's the K, keep your tank full. The N, of course, is do your needs assessment. O,
Mhm.
own your no. And then, of course, our W is work to win.
Work to win and make it a mutually agreeable thing. All right. And
Yeah.
have the conversations and tell your manager what support looks like for you. So just remember that for those of you that are sitting in that space of where you're feeling like you're getting close to quiet quitting or you're actually there. So be mindful of that. Now let's pivot and share your six tips that could help companies and leaders be more effective in managing individuals who could be disengaged or dealing with quiet quitting.
Awesome. So, one, supply the right tools. Critically important that people have what they need when they come to work. Give individualized attention when it's possible. Approach missed people. Provide coaching and training. Listen, pay attention, and act, right? Get social,
Yes.
find those points of connection, and then lastly, look for opportunities to serve others.
Oh, that's so powerful. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin says, awesome session. Thank you. Dr. Angela, I mean, I cannot tell you, every time I talk to you, I learn something. I always love your acronyms. She's always really great at coming up with an acronym so that we can remember things. I think it is a very effective tool, and you're very effective at creating them. I want to thank you for sharing the suggestions because I think you gave it from two sides, which introduces something new to the conversation. And I hope that people can take all of the tips that you've shared today and begin to apply them. I also want to thank all of you who decided to join Modern Mentoring today. I really hope you were able to take something from it. You will never know how important it is to me that you invest the time in this, because the only reason why we are all doing this is to give back. I think so many of us have come up through corporate America, and we just kind of had to learn by trial and error. Not a lot of people slowed down long enough to share, the true experiences, what worked, what didn't work. So I'm really hopeful through this platform we're able to do that for you. So I just want to thank you all. Grab those tips, put them into practice, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Modern Mentoring. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Dr. Angela.
Thanks, Lani.